Okay, welcome everybody to this Passion Talk number 6 already about synthesizers. So yeah, I'm really excited about this one because yeah, of course, synthesizers are like one of the most important instruments of our music, and I'm really excited to have a real expert talk group here. So we have, first of all, Allan McLoud here. Welcome. Are you muted? No, you're not. You aren't.
No, I'm not muted. I'm just quiet today.
Okay. Okay. Then next one we have Frank Aces.
Hey.
The 303 expert, I would say. Thank you for being here. And then we have Rolf Elmer, Cem Elmar.
Hey, how are you?
Hello. And then we have Bruno Effect.
Hi all.
Hello. Okay. Oh, sorry. I have to check. Yes. And then we have, sorry, last but not least, Pavel Khvaleev from Russia. Sorry if I pronounce your name wrong, but
Okay.
okay. All right. So let's get started with some basic. So for example, of course, for you guys, for the talk group, those basics are kind of self-evident. Everyone knows about them, but I think for us laymen, it's good to have some basics. And I asked Rolf Cem to explain just a little bit about synthesizers, about those instruments, really creating sounds by synthesizing yeah, sounds basically, and also to explain us a little bit about the difference between analog and digital synthesizers. So
yeah, well, the difference between analog and digital is actually a subject that could that we could spend a whole night discussing about. But actually the main idea is pretty simple. Analog is just the signal that is electrically produced, and in the digital world these signals are more or less divided into very, very small steps. And when you have like a good digital quality, then those steps are very, very small. But if you have like something rough, like 8-bit waveforms, like sine waves or sawtooth or rectangular waves, are divided a bit more raw. This could be also nice, but yeah, so the thing is that you use both worlds in the best way, because both worlds have their advantages and disadvantages. So, but tonight I'm here sitting in front of my very old synthesizer. It was first released in 1975 on the from the Roland company, and it's called System 700. And I remember in 1975 I was at the music fair in Frankfurt, which back at that time was a pretty huge music fair with halls filled up with instruments, and also electronic instruments and speakers, and you know, for every kind of music. And so I saw this massive modular system. This is a modular system because you have different modules. So you can, if you lose those screws here, you can take off one module and put another one in. So you can have like a very, very individual setup, and by exchanging the modules. And when I saw this the first time, I was like, okay, I have to get this once. This is just like because it looked so great. I didn't know anything about synthesizers. I was just impressed by the looks of it. And I knew that those synthesizers were already existing because of Keith Emerson and Wendy Carlos. And you saw these Moog synthesizers, these massive boards of electronic. And I always thought that there was really sexy. And yeah, well, so finally, I got my dream fulfilled and have one of these guys here in my studio. You hear it in the background, which is a very simple sine wave. Oh, actually, it was a triangular wave. A bit more interesting because of this detune. These rotary knobs, I can tune each one of them or detune. So this is like a basic, and now you can go crazy with all these different jacks and modulation.
Yes. As
Yes.
long as you play, we don't understand your voice.
We can,
okay.
yeah, it's very, you kind of have to.
Hold on, maybe I can.
It's too loud, but yeah.
Lower this synthesizer. Better?
Still loud.
Loud is good, man. What's the problem?
Maybe you can just explain whenever you're not playing the keys.
Hold on.
That's what bass drum going under that.
Made for to play it loud.
Better? Better? Better now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, and so here we go with some synth sounds. That produces like overtones, which is kind of interesting. It sounds a bit more beastie. And then we have a ring modulator, which actually adds and subtracts two frequencies from each other. And so you have actually four frequencies.
So you're actually changing the frequencies, right?
Yeah. So this ring modulator sounds a bit more clangy, more metallic. And then we have a filter where we can subtract frequencies and add resonance. That means I can add like overtones. Yeah, that's very basic, I know. But as soon as you make more complex sounds, it can get interesting. There you can hear it's, this synthesizer has really a beastie sound. You can make it really like sound raw. And of course, you can do this with all kinds of modern plugins as well. But they sound a bit different. So every synthesizer is like with guitars. When you have a Ramirez guitar and you go, for example, to another luthier and build another guitar, then they sound different because every maker of musical instruments has its own idea about how to create a sound, inside the oscillators, the filters, and everything. So even if it's a digital or analog synthesizer, even you have always different characters. I don't know if you can see way in the background. I have, for example, a Moog synthesizer, a 3P, which is also analog and modular. And this guy sounds completely different from the system, you know, from the Japanese version of it. And so you, when you add them in the best possible manner, then you have like an orchestra of sounds, you know, a big variety. There's maybe one sound that I wanted to demonstrate, which is maybe interesting for those who know my repertoire back in the days with Dance to Trance. I had a project called Dance to Trance, and we had one release called Power of American Natives, and that was quite a very successful release. It was the first golden record that I received in my life. I think way back there, you can see it on the wall. Oh no, you can't see it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But
it
you
does.
know, this track had a very interesting sound. It was not a 909 bass drum. It was not an 808. It was not a acoustic bass drum, a sample from an acoustic bass drum, but it was made with a System 700 with like oscillating filter. And let me try to demonstrate how it worked. So I take off this cable, and when you can, maybe you can hear that, you can make with a feedback, you can make a filter go and resonate from itself. And can you hear that noise? Okay, and then when you start modulating this filter with an envelope generator, which actually produces how can I put this, like a timeline of modulations with attack, decay, sustain, and release, then you can get something.
Now we
like...
can. We can't hear it. Sorry.
No.
No.
Okay, I'll make it a little bit louder then. Hold on.
No.
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 Okay, well, I hear it, Olivia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just heard a clack sound, but not really.
Yeah, this is the beginning. Let me
Oh,
explain it
sorry.
to the end.
Sorry, I thought it's playing the key sound.
No.
Oh yeah, now I hear it. Yeah.
Now it's off.
Yes, it's off.
Oh dear. Now I wanted to open my treasure box and show you.
Back.
But you get the idea when I.
Yeah.
You know, this sounds like sci-fi. And make literally a bass drum sound out of it. Here you can tune very deep. Then, adjust the modulation from the envelope generator. And maybe it doesn't sound so impressive now through the net, but actually, if you bring up certain frequencies a little bit, and it will sound quite interesting. And it's just a very simple patch. So I don't know if it probably doesn't sound so impressive now, but I wanted to demonstrate how I did it back in the days.
Of course,
this bass drum became very, very popular. It was sampled many, many times. And during the 90s, I think it was sampled by a lot of Eurodance kind of music. And you know, when something new came out, I could say, oh, yeah, there's my bass drum.
Really?
Yeah, it's just funny.
It's amazing.
It was done with a simple filter from this System 700 and a VCA, a voltage controlled amplifier, and two envelope generators, and that was it. Yeah, So with a very simple setup, you can make a lot of impact.
Nice. Wow. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, that's okay. Actually, this was just a little impression. I mean, you can do so much more with it.
Yeah, I'm sure you can talk for hours about this one.
Maybe we should go on with the others. Otherwise,
yeah, let's
boring.
come back to that again. And I'll always, if we can chip in, always welcome. Thank you so much for this introduction. Which yeah. So maybe as a second one, we should choose Frank Aces. Just because part of the reason is that Germany has just introduced the, how do you call it in English? They have to be at home at a certain time, and then Frank has to leave the studio on time. Yes, the lockdown, but then
Curfew.
Ausgangssperre.
Yeah, it's a curfew.
I know it in Dutch, in German. I don't know the word in English, but okay.
Curfew.
You know what I mean?
Called curfew.
Huh?
Curfew.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So, yes. Would you like to continue, Frank, and tell us a little bit about the very famous
Yes,
small machine?
I would like to continue. Maybe I would like to add something. You can correct me, everybody, if I'm wrong, but I think it's really hard to understand for beginners or people who have never heard before of the difference between analog and digital. So what Rolf was showing on this big instrument was, of course, an analog synthesizer, as he explained. And it is so big because in the past you needed so many material to create with electronic devices a tone. And all these knobs and cables are there to control the tone when you press the key, to make it playable or to make a sound out of this. And of course, over the years, it becomes easier to make these parts smaller and smaller and smaller. So this is why you see in the past all these really big machines. And then through our Technic Advance, we were able to create smaller ones. And in addition, we were able to recreate something in a digital way, which means, how can I explain it in the most easiest way? If you see my finger and you see these fingerprints on my finger, then this is the analog stick, let's say. And if I print it here on the paper and you see the print, the fingerprint on the paper, this would be the example of the digital thing. It's a copy of my analog stick. And in the digital synthesizer, they use the information from the fingerprint as a sample, as a copy. And yeah, people say because it's a copy, some informations are left out from the original because it's not 100% the same. And this is what Rolf mentioned in the beginning is, you recreate the original, and because of some information it's left, the sound is not exactly 100% the same as from an original, from an analog synthesizer. And the nerds and freaks say, I can hear this. The original is more warm, more deep, more powerful, more pressure, whatever. So this is like still an ongoing debate all the time about this. And of course, when the technology advanced, you have more and more the possibility to make this fingerprint more excise and more precise in relation to the original one. So that was in addition, I wanted to say, especially for the beginners. I hope it helped a little bit. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
And I'm coming to the Roland TB303. That is an analog synthesizer with only one voice, with one oscillator. It means when you press a key, you hear a tone, and if you press a second key, you still hear only one tone. So you cannot play chords or more complex sounds with it. And it is also one oscillator with two different wave shapes. Means one wave shape is really harsh and it's called saw chain sound. I can demonstrate that. And the other one is a pulse wave, which is more round, soft, and punchy, let's say. Who knows when it was built from you? Guess. When was the Roland TB303 built?
82? 1982?
84?
Very close, yeah. It was built in 1981.
One.
And it stopped soon after already. Know somebody when? It was built only, it was on the market only like 3 years. It stopped already in 1984.
Then it stopped.
And the funny thing is, it was built, and the idea behind this from Roland was to make a machine. They started actually first with drum machines, with a 909 and the 808, to give guitar players the option when they want to play at home, or they had no band members, they had no full band, to have a drum machine like a drummer at home where they can play guitar, and in addition they have a support from a drummer. So, and that was of course very successful in the early days, and then they had the machine to continue this and give also a bass player on top. And so the transistor bus TB, the Roland TB303, was built as a synthesizer option for a bass player. It wasn't really successful. The guys who, the target group, really didn't like the sound of it, because they say it's not natural. It was really artificial synthesizer sound. And so it wasn't a success. And I've heard when it was the last days available in Germany, it costed 700 Deutschmark, which is like 350 euro nowadays. And then soon after, all the shops, they brought it out for 100 euro maybe, or 200 Deutschmark. And then at about 1985.
Oh, Frank, sorry, I muted you. I always do that, I'm sorry. You have to unmute yourself.
What was the last thing you heard?
Thank you.
That's fine.
What was the last?
350 euros, and then
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I don't have to tell the whole story again.
No, Frank, the printer thinks like, yo, this is what.
Oh yeah, of course. So it wasn't really successful, but an American guy called Nathan Jones, called DJ Pierre, he was a member of the band Future. He started to play around with this in a very experimental way in 1985. And he released in 1987 a track called Acid Tracks. And it was 12 minutes minimal experimental track. And today it is seen as the kickoff, as the start for acid house, for the acid house genre. And later on, many more genres influenced by the acid sound developed, like acid techno, acid trance, whatever. Nowadays, the acid sound you find in so many genres like psytrance, trance, nearly everywhere. So that's about the history of the machine. And if you want, if it was not too long, I can demonstrate a little bit about it.
Yeah. Of course you want.
Yeah. Okay, for this, I have to change the camera.
Yes, perfect.
You should see now, it's a little bit dark. Let me see.
It's perfect. Yeah, we can see it.
It's okay?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So I have, you see the beautiful lights and this small little silver box. And I don't know where my fingers are. This is like, these are the small keys which are representing one octave on a synthesizer. Like here's the C, D, E, F, and so on till the higher C. And underneath these knobs, you have the option to program and save like a one sequence. It's a step sequencer where you can program like a small little melody or a rhythm or whatever with these two sounds I've mentioned before, the saw or the pulse wave. Here is a little dot on the end of the back. There you can switch a button and choose the right sound for this. And on top you have here like some silver knobs where you can modulate and influence and manipulate the sound as soon as you have programmed the melody. In terms of a filter shape, you can make it more tweaky, more bubbly, more, yeah, you will see when I make the demonstration. You can also change over here the tempo. You can change here the volume, and here you have some patterns where you can save your melodies. And then you have here a play section and a write section. And now I try to write one sequence for you. And for this, I'm going to play first one what I had programmed. So I think you can hear this, yeah?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this one I'm going to delete. And for this, I press where it was saved and say pattern clear. And when I press now, it's empty. You can't hear it anymore. And now I have to press this blinking button again. And over on the right side is a called time mode section where I can define how many steps the sequence should contain. Let's make it easy. I pressed just like 8 notes or 8 steps. And then I have a pitch mode over here. So it's now not working. Hold on. Pattern clear. So I start from the beginning, but probably it was not correct. Now it works. So I press some notes randomly here. And go back, and now I can define how many steps should be a note, or I can also press, yeah, that I have like a gap inside this sequence, or I can combine and combine some notes. And this is what I do here. And I can also go an octave down or up. Okay, and I make a control. To make sure it sounds good after this. So that should make it for this. Okay, you see, it's an old machine. It doesn't want to play now. I press the play button and it doesn't want to do it. So let me check what happened. Yo, here we are. And these are the filters and the knobs I told you you can manipulate and modulate. So yeah, and then this is now really raw and really dry and not really spectacular. So you go over to your sequencer, to your program where you run and all the other instruments you need to create a full track. Let me go back to the other camera. So it's a little bit more, can see me back. So here we go again. And then you go to your sequencer, you record the sequence, and from there you can add some effects like distortion, reverb, delay, whatever, because this is now, like you heard, like just a dry sequence, not really spectacular. But yeah, the magic comes later on when you give the final touch.
New Aces record coming along.
Yes, exactly.
Not good enough.
Oh, good for me
Yeah,
already.
good. So yeah, that was the little demonstration. Sorry, it wasn't that exciting, but yeah, I hope some people have now an idea how this machine works.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. We
I
can
would-
now really imagine you being in the studio, and thank you.
I
Do
must
you have a question?
say, a 303 always sounds spectacular, with
Yeah.
or without effects.
Good.
But
Yeah.
I never understood the idea behind the sequencer with this pitch mode and this time mode. For me, that's
Yeah, well,
crazy.
the time mode you have to define beforehand how many steps you want to.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, and it's a bit confusing because you have to do it first, and it has a second part after you have in the pitch mode programmed the notes. Then
Yeah.
you again have to define with the time mode. Yeah, it's a full note, or you leave out a note, or you paste the notes together. So yeah, it's a multifunction thing. And
Sometimes
all
it's-
these patterns have like multifunctions. It's a little bit confusing, but as soon as you have worked a little bit with it, it becomes easy.
Mhm.
But sometimes it's very surprising what it comes out in the end.
Yeah, and the thing here, what happened when I struggled first is these knobs are so old and they were already built very cheap, not with high quality stuff. So the older they get, you press one time, but underneath it's so sensitive that they already count like 10 times for one pressing the button one time. So, and then you have not the sequence you had in mind, so you have to try it again and again
Yeah.
until you have something which sounds really crazy and good. Yeah.
But when
So-
you program a sequence, do you actually have a melody in mind played? You know, does it sound in your head? Does it sound like this? And
Well,
you
you can do this, of course, already with another program with other synthesizers. You play a melody like you like, and then you look the notes where you have played there, and then you put it up into the TB303.
Yeah.
Or you go just like in the beginning, I really honest, I just like did try and error a couple of times, because if you go really musically to this, probably it's not makes a big difference to make music on a keyboard. So the fun part here is that you press a little bit, let's say, off. You don't have like harmonies or something in your mind. You just try, and then you listen what comes out of it. You know, of course, you know, I know a little bit when I make like at certain points from the timeline a note with an accent or a slide, or just a half note on a special part in the sequence, that it gives this little edge, what it's needed for a TB303 line, you know. So you can really just like a monotone thing, like on one note, like da, 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 and then you go just like one half note at the end, and you pitch it like up in an octave, and you make a slide on this, and then you have a simple sequence, but it sounds through the machine with your own touch and your own rhythmic, which is inside, really cool. And what I should also add is that these machines were built so cheap, with cheap elements inside, that not each 303 sounds the same. Every 303 has a little bit different sound out of this.
But this is probably true for all the analog equipment.
Analog synths. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's true. And that makes it so hard to recreate it in a digital form nowadays, because that mostly sound really clean and yeah, a little bit stiff compared to these randomly with little false step sequencer, which is not so precise, and it gives a certain groove to it, which makes it really interesting.
Just because it is not that perfect.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
So for you, it is really a difference. So you would always prefer it over the
longer you work
plugins,
with,
or
yeah, the longer you work with, the more familiar you get with it, and you hear the differences. But I also used for my latest tracks a lot of plugins with the TB303, but I spend it so many hours and time to it to recreate the analog feel and sound. Means like I put distortion, and EQing means like you add some frequencies and you cut out frequencies, and you do this over and over again. And after all these years, I have now, let's say, a formula for myself that you cannot really hear a difference so much anymore. I mean, if I program a sequence on a digital device or on this, and nobody knows it, and I play it to you with, you cannot see it, you probably wouldn't hear the difference, and just guess what's the original, what's the digital one.
But then, stupid question, what is the point in just, I mean, what is the, for you, what is the advantage of using the one or the other? Is it just, is it faster, or is it, for you, is it easier to use the digital way, or?
For one reason, to touch the analog buttons and to play around with the filters in an analog way has a more direct influence to the sound. It's like what you feel inside you. It's more direct than just program with a mouse some faders. This is one thing. And yeah, there is still, if you have a TB303 which has this strange sound, I had a couple of ones from the past, and it sounds really original. Like I really love the TB303 when it's deep and when you can distort it and it has like a really dark, evil feel. And I had an original, it sound always really harmless and not so evil like I wanted. So I recreated it in a digital device a lot better. But this one I showed you right now, this goes very, very deep and really dark. And I don't know, this one I would not sell.
That's so interesting. So every machine is different either.
This machine is from my friend Rolf, and yeah, I would give him the recommendation not to sell it because it's really, it has this really special edge.
Coming back to what you said at the beginning, I bought it from a jazz musician, and he was practicing with it, and probably he thought the whole thing is too complicated and not sounding actually like a jazz bass player.
Of course not. Of course
and,
not.
Yeah, and so he sold it. He sold it for 500 Deutschmarks back at that time, and I just grabbed him and ran as fast as I could.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, and also I have a 909 back there, and same story. It was like a musician who is like doing. What is the proper word for Tanzmusik? You know, some people who would has an organ and would play like waltzes and cha-chas for, you know, a group of people who getting married, you know, have their party. And yeah, now he wanted to sell this and wanted to get a proper drum machine, you know, like with digital sound that sounded more like a real drum. And so he sold it also same price for 500 Deutschmarks back in the day. And yeah, I was very lucky to that these guys never knew what they had, and probably that was of no value to them. But I knew that I wanted them so bad.
Yeah, countless stories like this, Rolf.
Yeah,
countless stories from people who got them like really in a very mint condition.
This was also mint when I bought it.
Yeah, for 200 euros, just, you know, with the whole bag and everything, you know. And
I think
really,
the bag is really funny because you can also the drum machine. It was like a very cheap sounding silver bag. You could put the 303 and the drum machine into this, and with the batteries, this is actually runs by batteries. You can run it with batteries, and you can walk into the park and do your music in the park or whatever. It's
You
so
need
funny.
a battery also to save the sequences, Roth.
Okay.
The hit sequences I just made on this, they're gone
Okay.
as soon as I switched off.
Okay, when you give it back to me, you take
to
out the
know.
batteries, and all they are gone. They are gone all.
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much, Frank. So interesting.
Pleasure.
Really so authentic as well. I mean, yeah, could it be better? Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So yeah, maybe this is a nice transition to our friend Pavel, who could probably explain a little bit how he, compares the analog and digital synthesizers, and also your favorite one, maybe. I think you have, some nice stories to share with us.
Yes, I will try, because I didn't know everybody today is showing something. So
It's not it's just the two actually. So,
So you have nothing to show, Pavel. You have nothing to show.
Not everyone is showing anything.
I have to finish the talk. Thank you. I would like to tell maybe from the beginning, like my experience with the analog synthesizers, and also with the music in general, I think, because I really asked my parents to buy the first synthesizer, and they gave me just, I was living in Russia, in Nabezhnye Chelny city. This is really far away, deep inside Russia, in Tatarstan. And they just gave me, let's say, I think $10 or 10 euro, but in rubles, it was 500 rubles. So I found only the one Russian model synthesizers. It's called Farmanta. And this super cheap analog, it was real analog synthesizer, by the way, but it was so cheap and so low quality. It's even doesn't have the MIDI connections. So everything what I can just play on the keyboard, but I can't really connect it with my sound card by MIDI. So it was like really crazy. So what I did, I just really try to play and record, like on the super old audio program. It's called Cool, if somebody remember this. No?
Never heard.
Okay. Yeah, so and it was really complicated, but yeah, I anyway try to make something with this. So later I start to use I really write down all this, and sorry for my English. Frank helped me and say like I have to structure all my things, whatever say in English. Yeah, so it was my first synthesizer, Farmanta, by a Russian company. Yeah. Later, my favorite synthesizer was where I, by the way, found the main sound for my first music project, Moonbeam. By the way, it was Alesis Andromeda A6. It was like. I think I spent, I don't know how many hours to understand how it works, because it's quite complicated machine, and but it's super unique. And the most important thing, no any real software synthesizers rebuild this. I'm super waiting for when maybe Arturia, the biggest company, who can rebuild this, but at the moment nobody really repeat this sound. So, and this is why it was so unique. And yeah, this is how I found my first, like, let's say, unique Moonbeam sound in the past. But it was also the problem why I sell this, because after a couple of years to use this, all these oscillators inside, it was, I think, 16 oscillators, inside this, because it was polyphonic synthesizers. They start to not working proper is correct word?
Properly,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Properly, yeah. So I have to switch on the synthesizer every time when I would like to make music with this synthesizer. I have to switch on and waiting for 30 or 45 minutes when it will warm enough, and I can really play with this, because if I will start make music from the beginning, after when I switch on the synthesizer, it was completely detuned.
Because,
detuned, because it's a 16 oscillators, and when you press every key, and one key and second another will be detuned, so it's it's completely not working. So I have to sell this. So and here Frank, my friend from Frankfurt, helped me with this, because it was so complicated to sell here in Russia, so I decided to sell this in Frankfurt, in Europe. And for me, it was a big challenge to bring these synthesizers with me and move to Frankfurt, because it weighs, I think, 30 kilograms. And it was, I don't know, Frank, it was, I think, 5 years ago, right?
Kind of.
And airplanes was not so struggle with hand luggage. So I don't want to put this big synthesizer to the backs, take off the backs, I would like to bring this with hand luggage. And it was really challenge for me, because I bought the flight with Aeroflot, and I bring this big case, it's really fucking huge case with the 30 kilograms inside. And I have to play in my hand, really something light. Yes, something light, yes. And when the stewardess saw this, when she saw me in the airplane inside, she said oh, what's this? I said, this is really light, like a synthesizer. Oh, are you a musician? I said, yeah. And I tried to put this synthesizer up to the space with it. And I have to play it's really light, but it was so heavy for me. And so this is just a funny short story about how I bring this to Germany. So anyway,
when I saw him at the gate, when he came from the plane, he was like, Frank, take this. I can't take this anymore. My arm hurts. It's so fucking heavy. And it was, I don't know, it was heavier than 30 kilograms. It was tremendously heavy, because it's like a huge thing.
Yeah.
And you just put it up in
Lufthansa would have never ever have allowed him to go on board with this. I don't know, the Russian company Aeroflot, I don't know how he made this.
By the way, today,
incredible.
Today it will be impossible, by the way, because they really now control this kind of stuff. Yeah. But so my mission was successful. And anyway, it was so unique synthesizer. So Frank, we found the guy who even buy this for, I think, for €2,500, even though the some of the oscillators was detuned, because yes, I think he did some renovation inside, or I don't know,
Here are a lot of freaks who are just happy to have this and to work with this somehow.
Yeah, but anyway, when I saw this, I'm really crying, because it was so unique and so special. And maybe I don't know if I will find maybe in the future in the good condition this synthesizer again, I will definitely buy this.
I don't know, Ellen, how many do you have in your studio in the
background? My collection at the moment in the studio, I've actually reduced everything in the studio, but I have in total about 70 synths.
Yeah.
And do you have a Alesis Andromeda?
No, I never liked it.
Okay.
I did not. It was the one synth that just didn't do it for me. I don't know why.
Okay.
I think it was because the software was also a bit buggy in it as well.
Yeah,
and,
it
then-
was.
and then and then Alezas they stopped making it. So
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Ah.
lot of bugs, but yeah, I don't know. Somehow it really works for me, and yeah. So, by the way, first time when I saw this synthesizer, Alessandromeda, I saw in the studio in Miami from John Digweed and Sasha. And this is really like a old progress. It's a beginners, not beginners, not correct word. It's like a how they create the fathers of progressive house style. Yeah. So this is when I first times found this synthesizer, and yeah, it's really amazing. Yeah. So what I would like to say, what I also want to say, what I don't. Which synthesizer, analog synthesizers I hate.
Yes, go on.
But it's just two. It's just two. One
So
of
please, Pavel, before you say this, watch precisely which analog size synthesizers Alan have in the background.
I know. No, this is my personal opinion, and
Okay.
This is freedom
I
of
know-
expression, Frank.
Freedom of expression.
yeah. Many artists. Many artists love these synthesizers, but yeah, I bought also, I think maybe like 10 years ago, Axis Virus TI2 Polar. I think maybe somebody knows this, and yeah, I bought this synthesizer because yeah, it was really good offer, really quite cheap, and I hear also from Frank he have a Axis Virus, right?
But I have a B, not this digital. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean it's a virtual digital thing, but not as a it's not integrated into the software for your sequencer, because yeah, I was always skeptical about this.
Yeah, so Axis Virus TI2 Polar, was like a next generation, and it was like a flagman of this of this company, and I saw also many artists who are using this, and it sounds was quite okay. Like, and I think like, okay, I have to try it by myself. And this is the first time when I found out like analog digital synthesizer. It's not a guarantee when you will have a really fat sound. Because for me, it's just my opinion, like Axis Virus TI2 Polar really sound super flat and not a fat, don't have this magic analog feelings completely, because yeah, I don't know, maybe it depends from the oscillators or the method how they use this. I don't know, but yeah, for me it's not working, so I don't like this synthesizer and I sell this. And it's really crazy because in our days you still have to pay also about 2,000 and 3,000 for this model. I don't know.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, some people still use this.
Somebody just unfriended you on Instagram.
Okay. And yeah,
Probably Axis Virus. The company.
yes, yeah, I can forget about their support like that, like to be ambassador of Axis Virus. And also, I think I can forget about to be ambassador from Electron. It's another company. What I also don't like, because
Bash, stop! You ruin your career.
I have to tell this, because look, if you build analog synthesizers, you have to be user friendly. And Electron, for me, it's not user friendly. It's really it was just a super complicated synthesizer. I bought Analog 4, it's called, and it was like a machine. I bring this synthesizer with me to the also when I fly to the gig, and I bring this with a battery. So I really try to be into this, and I read long instruction how to use this, you know. And normally I really happy to spend a couple of hours, like a lot of hours to understand how it works. But after it was like I fighting with a wall. So I really it was no chance for me. So I really tried to create some sequence or something like this. Yeah, it's not. It was for me. It was user unfriendly. So that's it. This is also I can again say like I really love Arturia. I really love.
Now we know where you have your
Yeah,
sponsorship.
but this is a good point. Just to turn this a little bit into the positive. What is your favorite at the moment?
Yeah.
So you sold your most favorite one, right?
Yes, I saw.
But what are you working with at the moment?
Now by the way, I found really like a gold standard of for me. It's like a gold standard. It's like there's a company. I really love Dave Smith synths. It's like really for me sounds really amazing. They have a really special like a special sound. You know, not type of sound. English. What's
Signature.
Unique.
Signature, yes, exactly. Thanks,
Signature
Rolf.
of unique,
Yeah, like a special signature of the sound. And I had also Pro 2. It's like it's not really analog. It's analog and digital. And yeah, now I have like, and what I using normally when I play live also, because it's really light and not so big. This is like this is Dave Smith Morpho. It's called. Yeah, these yellow ones have a really fat sound, and also yeah, I love this type. The signature. So. Yeah, and my last two things what I want to tell. What I would like to try in the future. This is a Waldorf Quantum. It's just super expensive. This is why I'm not buy this at the moment. But it looks like a spaceship, and for me, it's like really interesting. I don't know how to work with them, but yeah, Waldorf. I think it's a German company, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe I can really touch this and try when I will come to Frankfurt to Frank and in music session. Maybe if they have this. Yeah. So it's called Quantum. They present just 1 year ago. So for me, it's really interesting what the people what's the this company can to present what's new, because normally in analog synthesizers already everybody did like I think everything what they can, like it's really interesting what they can to present new. Yeah, and I think if I'm to say already too much, I can stop, or I can say one small thing in one more.
Of course I can.
Okay. Why this sentence I read, why I'm not buy a MOOC synthesizer.
Oh, that's interesting, because everybody seems to be so passionate about
I
that.
was so close. I was so close to buy MOOC because I saw also in music session, I think big MOOC Voyager. What I was in the past, I was dreaming about this synth, and I think okay, I have to really in the someday buy this. I checked this also in the shop, but the reason why I'm not buy this finally, because I in one studio I did a recording, like a test recording with a sound, with a really simple MOOC, like a famous MOOC oscillator, like what's really fat, and I did a compare. I did a comparison. Yes, thanks, Rolf. Yeah, comparison with Reactor Monarch. This is the software synthesizer from Native Instruments, and for my surprise, for my surprise was I really think Reactor Monarch sounds can be not say fatter, but it's like for me it's the same analog. It was really close. From all emulations what you can find in the market, for me Reactor Monarch super close with the signature famous MOOC tone, let's say. Yeah, that's it. I'm finished. Hope. I was not so boring.
So we can just state like your sponsors are Arturia, Alesis, and Native Instruments. Yeah.
Frank, you're
Okay.
terrible.
You're not right,
And
Frank.
Dave Smith.
And
I'm
Dave
not,
Smith, yeah.
I'm not saying any synthesizers from Arturia. I just said Arturia, but I'm not present any product.
I'm just joking.
I know.
Nice. Is there anything you'd like to add? I mean, everybody can, of course, and the least to add anything about this.
Yeah, what Pavel mentioned about the Waldorf synths, they're so amazing.
Oh, really?
This, like Alesis, you have also an Alesis Ion, I see in the back.
Yes.
A small, it's
Yeah.
super unique sound as well. And for me, like you said, we have a Moog in the studio, but I never use it because the Monarch is doing the job for us. And you saw it with Stefan Botzin. Everybody went into the Moog sound, and you can see now they're shifting a bit more to the Dave Smith instruments. So you see every producer from Kai J, all they have now a new Dave Smith instruments synthesizer, Prophet, or so it's also, it looks like it's sort of a hype.
Yeah, like a trend. Yeah.
And Waldorf was such a company that was so unique and did their own thing. And
exactly, yeah.
But I'm very curious about the new synths from Waldorf. So
it's called Quantum.
Quantum, yeah. They have another one. It looks like my favorite synth, the Virus.
Okay.
Hey, great.
Cool.
Nice. Wow. Okay, so good luck on that, Pavel. So maybe Allan can help out, but maybe not because he has 70.
I have to go. I have to leave the great Wild Bunch for tonight.
Oh, yeah. You
But
have to go home.
Yes, I will watch the rest as soon as I'm home, definitely.
Of course.
When you upload the whole show again.
Well, maybe we can, you can join us again when you're home. Maybe it's...
Yeah, probably, depending on how fast I'm back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wish you all a good Sunday night, and thanks for sharing. And yeah, maybe I will join in again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Hi.
Okay. So, Allan, what did you were about to say something?
Yeah, there's a lot to say now. Because with Pavel, I totally agree with the electron stuff. The electron stuff really is complicated. I had the analog rhythm, and I had it for about 2 weeks, and I just couldn't get anywhere with it. And for me, the workflow was just so difficult with all the different menus that you have to go through. But I think you might find the same problem with the new Waldorf stuff, because it is quite complicated. Because you have all these menus, you have a big display on it, and you have all these menus to dive through. But it's down to your workflow. These kind of synths is entirely down to how quickly you want to create something. And I just feel, because I was a Waldorf fan, but I don't know how they are now, because I haven't had a Waldorf synth for quite a long time. I've got an old Microwave 2, I've got it there, but they're still buggy. They still have software issues that they've never solved. So whether that will be the same with the new stuff that they're doing is definitely very interesting. But and that's the reason, I do have quite a lot of synths, and the reason that I have a lot of synths, because I always get this question, when people walk into my studio, and it's like, well, why do you need that many synths? And it's simple. Each synth has a different character. Each synth has they have different oscillators, you have different filters, you have different envelopes. You have things like slow envelopes, fast envelopes. You have things like the old Korg MS-10 that for me has one of the best filters in it, because you get really screechy sort of kind of effects out of it. Or things like Rolf's amazing modular wall there that I absolutely love. has really fast envelopes, so that's how you can do program things like bass drums. You need a fast envelope to program a bass drum or to do percussive sounds, and you can do that with things as well, like the SH-101 or the Roland SH-2 as well. They are really fast envelopes, so you could get really really good percussive sounds and things like that. Yeah, and yeah, and each synth has a different character, especially the analog synths. They were discussing before about, you know, because the synths were made with different materials back in these days. The materials, they get old, and of course, when the materials get old, they create their own character as well. So you'll never find two old analog synths from the same make. So, for example, you take, as Frank said, two TB303s. You'll never find two that sound exactly the same. Yeah. So, and that's the reason I have all these different synths. Plus, you know, today you don't need all these synths. You know, you really, that's why I have half of them now up in the attic, because I don't use them all. Because a lot of it you can replace with software, but I'm just not the type of guy that can program sounds using the mouse. You know, I need, you know, I need to touch the synths. I need to use the sliders and everything like this, and that's why I don't have. I have one synth here that has menus, and it's a digital synth, and it's the new Roland Jupiter XM, which is here, which for me is an absolutely amazing synth. Because you have you know, this is the advantages of digital and modern synths now, is that you can pack so much into them now. So with that little synth, you can actually load sound engines from different vintage synths. So for example, I have the GX8P sound engine in there. I have the Jupiter 8 sound engine in there. I have a Juno 106 sound engine, the SH-101 sound engine. Of course, it's all digital, but you've now got everything compact coming out of one digital keyboard. So that's the advantage of having the digital stuff. And
you take it easy with you in the plane.
Yeah. I was because I was with Bruno the other day as well. You know, for his live setup. And the great thing with the Jupiter XM as well is it has its built-in speakers and it's battery operated as well. And it has 16 different parts, and it has a rhythm section, and you have a sequencer section as well. So, you know, it's quite an amazing little piece of kit. It took me a while to get into it because it is actually quite complicated. But once I get into it, I actually love it, and I love the sound that comes out of it as well.
Alan, one question. This synthesizer from Roland, they have like a software version, and this one hardware, but the sound completely the same, right? So this is like just like a control. You can control the software synthesizer, or it's how it works?
It's completely standalone, but you can use, so for example, you can use the sound engines from the Roland Cloud. They're in a different format, but you can actually send them per MIDI sysx. You can send it over. In fact, no, it's actually done with USB stick now. You put everything onto a USB stick, stick it in the back, and then when you start it up, it loads the sound engines.
But the sound quality is really the same, right? Like from this.
It is. It's pretty much the same. It is like it's as they say. It's pretty much like a VST in a box. But for me, it's actually the Jupiter XM is actually more than that because of all the different functions that it has in such a compact piece of kit, and you can take it on the plane as hand luggage because it really is small, but it's a very powerful little synth. And if you do comparisons, for example, you do string sound comparisons between a Jupiter 8 or the Jupiter XM, of course you can hear the difference if you're doing them a one-to-one comparison, but in the mix itself, you will not hear the difference. So I love it. I think it's brilliant, but it took me about a year to get into it because I just didn't have time. So I would go to it and I would just find sort of one sound that I would like, and I would use that, but I would never use any of the other functions. And then just recently, I've actually managed to get into it, and I do find it a very good compact little synth. Yeah. So what else do I have here? Oh, I've got loads of stuff here. Still have some old digital stuff as well, like so the Roland JD800. Absolutely love the JD800. I think I actually found out yesterday, Rolf, that you used the JD800.
Oh yeah. It was one of the main machines for the German spoon tracks, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, and actually there's a version from the Xenology in the Roland Cloud that sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah, it does. I've got it here as well now, and I've done the comparison between the JD800s and the Xenology version, and I can't hear the difference.
Oh yeah. I was impressed when I touched it. First, I was like, oh, let's see if this guy can really stand against it. Yeah. But actually, it sounds pretty well. So I think it's when you put your hands on the keyboard and play, and once you get inspired, and once you get like emotional to it, and makes you making music, then I think it has this little special something to it that you don't want to miss when you play a synthesizer.
That's why I actually have. I've got 3 JD800s.
Wow.
I've got one in the studio. Yeah, because they have that. They have the red glue problem. Yeah. So when Roland made them, you have the little weights under the keys.
Mm-hmm.
And
the glue. I heard about this. Yes.
And it's an absolute nightmare because it will kill the whole keyboard, and you can't get spares for it. And then you have the little flat band cable for the contacts, especially for the aftertouch. And if the glue gets in there, you can never get it clean again. And that's it. You only use it then over MIDI. Yeah. So that's why the one I've got here in the studio at the moment, a couple of keys are not working, but it's not down to the red glue, thankfully. And the other 2 that I have upstairs, I'm actually just renovating them as well, so they don't get the red glue problem. And I've promised Bruno one. Bruno's desperate to have one.
There's actually one synthesizer that I want to mention that is also, or was very important for the German spoon records, and that's the Oberheim Expander, which you cannot really see because it's way there in the background. But this is also one machine that was able to do very unique sounds. You couldn't get really like a sharp and full bass sound out of it, but it sounded always very warm and had some patch possibilities, and therefore sounds that were absolutely unique. Stella and Age of Love remix and many more have been not possible without this very unique synth.
Yeah, I've just sold mine. I had the Oberheim Expander.
Oh, okay.
I actually got it so that I could actually program sounds like the Stella sounds, because I just loved that, the way the filter, and that's what we're talking about, is the different character of synthesizers. And for me, there is no other synthesizer that has the filter characters of the Oberheim Expander. It really is unique, totally unique.
Absolutely, yeah. It has this creamy kind of sound that is hard to describe, but it sounds very special.
Yeah, very special. But I just wasn't, because I then bought back to Dave Smith. I then bought the Dave Smith, the OB6, which he'd done with Tom Oberheim.
Oh, yeah.
And that sort of kind of covered the sounds, and it was sounding just the character that was missing from the Expander. I would kind of get that out of the OB6, so that's why I decided to sell the Expander. I actually kept it for a year, packed away in a box, because I really didn't want to sell it. But then I thought, hey, no, come on, somebody's got to have this in their studio and use it. Yeah.
Mine isn't really working anymore. It's
Oh, don't say that.
yeah, it's just fading away, to be honest. Yeah, and some voices just simply don't work anymore, and lost all these presets. All the Gem and Spoon presets are lost in digital nirvana.
Yeah. Oh.
And yeah, it's a bit of a shame.
Send it to me. I'll restore it for you.
Okay, I will.
Well, that's an offer.
Yeah, I love restoring synths as well, you know, because that's why I've got so many synths, because I'll buy old broken vintage synths, and I just love repairing them, and even if it takes a year to repair it, it's, you know, at the end when you then switch it on and then you just play it and everything works, it's just so satisfying for me.
How do you know how to do it?
I'm self-taught. It's like in the first Passion Talks, I said that one of the reasons I got into music was in the early days is when I had I played guitar and I had my guitar amp, and then I had a little cassette player. My little cassette player wasn't loud enough, so I pulled all the wires out of it and to get it to run through the guitar amp. And it actually worked, and my parents took the guitar amp away from me because it was too loud. So that's kind of how I got into sort of the electronic parts of it, but it was never something that I wanted to do professionally. So everything that I've learned, I'm self-taught basically. Yeah. And yeah, I've got an old Yamaha CS40M that I'm currently restoring, but I've been restoring that now for about 18 months because I just can't get parts for it, so it's really difficult. But you know, that's just the passion that I have for synths. I love synths, yeah, and I think that's also why I have so many. But it's like I said, I have reduced in the studio so that I really have in here what I like to work with, yeah, and the rest of them are just yeah, good to have, but I have started selling off because I do start to feel now, you know, especially the really good synths like the Oberheim expander, it's actually a waste of it sitting in the corner in a box somewhere. You know, somebody should have it and do something creative with it. Yeah.
You didn't really use it
that
much.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. But I've also, you know, I've also started replacing a lot of my old classic synths with the new. I know this is quite a hot topic at the moment amongst all the proper synth freaks. Is the new Behringer stuff that's coming out, yeah, or that's going onto the market. It kind of sort of seems to split people on the internet, and it causes huge arguments, and it actually causes people to fall out and not speak to each other. And I just don't get it, because, you know, yeah, the business side of it, you could think, yeah, Behringer, they are ripping people off, but they're not, you know, because it's all about patents, and patents run out after a certain time. So for me, what they're doing is they're recreating these older synths, you know, something like if somebody wants a Moog Model D, yeah, a Moog Model D will cost you what at the moment I think round about €3,500 to €4,000. Yeah, and then Behringer have made this, which is a clone, and you can get it for I think they cost about €500. Yeah, and the difference in sound is zero. Yeah, for me basically, because you have again Moog Model Ds. You will not find two that sound exactly the same. Yeah, and it's exactly the same with these. So you have the tolerance in the sound, but they're now actually bringing these kind of synths to the younger generation, so that they can actually have something affordable. Yeah, and
yeah, that's what I just typed in a question. What do you all think about the Behringer remakes? And then you
oh yeah.
And for me, it's also amazing how they done it. Like the TB03 clone, or they do things I don't know. Yeah. The TR06 and yeah. How do they do it? And yeah, what's the quality of it? But sound wise, it's very, very close to the originals.
Yeah, because I do have quite a lot of this stuff here. I've got the
Monopoly?
Poly D, I've got the Monopoly,
Yeah.
I've got the MS 101, yeah, the Model D. I've got the RD8 drum machine,
Yeah.
which is very, very close to the original.
You're almost sponsored by Behringer, or not?
No, it's the decision for me to do this was it's a lot less maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so I've now got gear in the studio that now actually works all the time, and I don't have to, you know, because it's like Frank was saying as well, you know, and I bet Rolf's the same as well with his modular system. You know, things will start scratching and things will not work properly, and it really is a pain in the arse to continue repairing and restoring this stuff. Yeah, so now I've got stuff in the studio that actually now permanently works. I mean, I do have some really old stuff like the Roland 8 SH2. I've still got that here because there is no replacement for that. Not even the software version comes close to that. Or like I said earlier, the Korg MS10. Yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing comes close to that. But if there are other things, you know, like so the Behringer Odyssey as well, it sounds identical to the original.
Wow.
But this one works, whereas my original that I've got upstairs doesn't work. You know.
Yeah, and it doesn't cost a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Odyssey is about what, 640 euros or something.
Amazing.
Like that. Yeah,
amazing, huh?
Yeah, and
it's all made in sweatshops in China. Well, no.
I can't say anything because I work for a Chinese company.
Oh wow, that's so
that is, yeah, that is quite you know, that's had quite an impact in the whole synthesizer scene as for what Behringer is currently doing, and it has split it into, yeah, and but you know, I get it. I get the idea behind it, you know, and it really is. It's bringing these old gems to the younger generation, yeah, because nobody can afford. Who can afford, you know, something like an OBX or something like that, which Behringer are currently working on, yeah, or a TR909. You know, TR909. You're talking what, between €2,500 and €3,000. Who can afford to buy that today?
No.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or even the 303. I think 303 is around about €1,500 or €1,800, maybe more. No. Yeah, and you can pick these ones up from Behringer for 149 euros.
Yeah. Allan, so. I also would like to advise to say I found out really interesting all this new generation software synthesizers on the iPad from Apple.
Yeah.
So I use Animoog application. Yeah. And this is amazing. I even use this in one of my tracks also, because they have they present some special, really special also sounds, you know, and Animoog, I don't know, I'm not found any hardware who can give you this so many interesting possibilities. And I think this is also like a different world. Yeah, this is also from but I talking about Animoog. You know, it's called. I think it's called Animoog. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called. Yeah,
that's
Animoog.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and this is really also really interesting sound. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. So I really love this synth, and then not found any like let's say something like this on the hardware. You know, so.
Yeah, there are, you know, because software, I use a lot of software synths as well. Actually, I also use a lot of software versions of the hardware synths that I have here. Yeah, you know, just for a bit more flexibility and a bit more
quicker.
Yeah, and it's also easy as well for the workflow. You know, so if I'm using the hardware synth, you know, when I'm happy with whatever I've made with that synth, you then have to record it, and then you have to. You know, then you have it in the track. Whereas with the software synth, you know, you've got it in there, it's there, and it'll stay there. Yeah, and so yeah, no, I do like the best of both worlds. I like digital, I like software, but I also love the old analog stuff. Yeah. So and things like Animoog, but there's also a lot of great other software tools coming along now. You know, especially sort of in the sequencer side of things. There's a lot of software coming in now that's that makes sequencing a bit more flexible, but also triggers accidental ideas as well. You know, which is quite interesting. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think I've spoken enough now about Emerson.
Well, if you do have a lot to tell, it's okay to speak a lot.
Yeah, the next time I'll do it from up in the attic where all the other synths are.
Oh yeah, exactly. Museum.
Yeah, but
very
up there
interesting collection you have.
Yeah, it looks up there. It looks like, because I've got loads of spares as well. So there's boxes of synth spares and key beds and God knows what up there. So
wow,
it's like a proper man cave.
All right. Yeah. So then, Bruno, where are you? Yes, there are you. You are. Well, yeah. There's actually two points I'd like to address for you. First of all, what are you working with at the moment? Is there anything you kind of prefer working with, or are you just as flexible as Allan seems to be? All kinds of, not so many maybe.
Mostly I'm working in the box, so because it's easier.
Yeah.
And yeah, to tell you my own opinion about this analog versus digital discussion. As we all know, an analog unit sounds different than another analog unit, and some of these units sounds really bad, some sounds good, and digital sounds different in another way, but it could sound it could sound good. And sometimes when you use an analog synth and it has this fatness and this really strong bass, and it blows you away. It could help you in the mix, but sometimes it's better you have a weak signal, so to place it in the mix down, and then maybe you better use a digital plugin or something like that.
Yeah,
it's always to use the right tool in the right moment and in the right spot.
yes, of course.
To tell you the truth, when about myself, because I also grew up with the analog world, I couldn't wait until it was possible that you can have your studio in the box, you know, and have now I have everything on my MacBook Pro, and literally I can take it with 2 SSDs and go somewhere, Hawaii, sit at the beach and can make music, you know, with my headphones. And for example, Andrew Sheps, a very, very famous award-winning producer and sound engineer, he works completely in the box. You know, he sits down in a hotel room and sometimes makes mixes for bands. They send him the files and he sorts out the mix and does it with a 250 Sony headphone, and the results are amazing. So I think now we are at a point where this discussion that was ongoing before between analog and digital, I think is no more, because the digital thing became so good that you can't really tell apart which one is which, and the results are so amazing with the computer power that we have, that you know, these aliasing and all these problematic things that was in the digital world doesn't seem to exist anymore. I mean, there is, but like I said, you know, the machines, you know, the computers are so powerful that we don't have really issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if quality is not an issue, I mean, then it's just a matter of preference. I mean, I can also see that a musician would, you know, want to touch things like what Allan said, like to play an instrument. So I could totally understand if somebody said, well, I'd like to press the keys, you know.
Yeah.
but then it's probably more quickly, or you know, just easier to do it in a digital way. So that's I would never, you know, judge to say
you
this
saw
is
your
right.
session in the evening, and you come back in the morning, recall everything, and it sounds just the same.
Yeah.
And this is a very big advantage. I remember when we had to switch from sessions to another session, or when we booked a studio and we had to be finished on this day, because on the next day there would be another client coming in. So we could not do any changes, you know, which is good in a way, because you have to decide, you have to make decisions. But at the same time, the other day, maybe when you wake up and you have worked until 4 o'clock in the morning, and then you hear the result and you think, this is not really, you know, we have been tired, and this is too loud, and this is not really in place. And you can't really go back, even though when you would have the possibility to go back into the studio to recreate the mix is simply not possible, because otherwise you would have like write down every single channel, the settings, which costs you another 2 hours maybe. And so I think it's a big advantage, and I'm very happy that we that we can work digital these days.
I think also, I presume when you had in that time a MacBook with all the plugins, Stella wouldn't sound anything like Stella sounds now.
That's probably true,
yeah.
Because when you listen to Stella, you can say it's a track that is not from this time, because it doesn't sound so clear and doesn't have this it doesn't have the signal that we have now. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes when I listen to some tracks from this era, you think, oh my God, you know, this sounds terrible. And today we have all these amazing EQs where you can take this frequency out a bit and push that a little bit. And this gives you so many possibilities. Sometimes it's terrible because you get lost. Just yesterday, I tried to master one of my new releases, and I had to stop because I got completely lost. And today I came back, and it took me like an hour and it was fixed. But that you have so many possibilities today, and can recall everything, you can easily get lost and lose the emotional connection to the track. And this was a big advantage from the music, you know, maybe in the 90s, where you just had to put down something and you had to simply finish it, and you could not like recall it like 3 days later and make it perfect. No, it wasn't, just simply wasn't possible.
Yeah,
I still have that problem today with
excuse me, Allan. Sorry guys, I have to go because here in Russia it's already 10:40, and my wife looked to me and say like, yeah.
Say hi to her.
Yeah,
thank
be
you
a good boy.
Thanks, Olivia, for invitation, and it was really nice to see you and speak with you and meet with you, all of you. So yeah, thank you so much. And
hey, thanks, Pavel.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Say hi to Sasha. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Cheers. No, as I was saying, I still have that problem today with working on multiple productions. I had it the other day. Bruno actually wanted to come to the studio to try out some of the Behringer stuff, but we just couldn't do it because I was in the middle of a track that Bruno was mastering, and until the master's finished, I couldn't change any of the settings on any of the synths. Because you just can't, even with the new Behringer stuff, you can't store anything on them. So as soon as you change the settings, that's it, it's gone. Yeah. Okay. But you don't have the problems that we used to. I used to remember we had in this. I can't remember. I think it was an OB1 we had in the studio at the time, and depending how long it was on for, if you left it overnight, still switched on, when you come in the next morning, and wanted to play the same sound, it would sound completely different because the components were all a lot warmer. So you would never have the analog sound sounding the same from one day to the next, which was also a problem with analog stuff. So
you immediately have to print it, and otherwise it would stay. It sounds different.
The temperature is also a very big issue, because I was talking to Jonas Saalbach 2 years ago, and he did that show on top of in the Berlin live stream with iMusic, and iMusic was playing on a old Arturia analog thing, the monologue, or no, I don't know the name of the thing, but the sound went this because of the low temperature. It sounded really false. That's analog care.
Well, they used to have Tangerine Dream. They used to have problems on stage as well all the time with the live shows. With the big analog rigs. Or I think there's a video somewhere of Keith Emerson with his huge Moog modular where the whole thing just collapses on stage, and all you've got then of in the middle of a track is white noise.
Wow. Wow. So Bruno, make sure you. I hope you didn't have any of such experiences when you played live. Actually, Allan mentioned your mastering, so that may be a nice transition to your second.
Yes, but I have to say one more thing about synthesizers.
Sure.
I'm using the things of both worlds. So sometimes analog synth, sometimes mostly I'm working in a box. But I'm a big fan of this Omnisphere synthesizer, and a few years ago I was really looking for hours for a sound for the main melody of one of my tracks. It was a detuned world, and then after hours I didn't find a suitable sound. I plugged on my Oberheim synth, and 10 minutes later I got my hook line, and I was done in this song. So maybe better you have I would say a simple synthesizer with not that much possibilities, and then you get more or easier to the end. So
less is more.
Yeah. But as Rolf said, if you can recall all with one click, open one file, it's really suitable, really cool, because sometimes, let's say something about mastering, sometimes you have a really how can I say it? Schwierige Kunden. Schwierige Kunden.
Difficult customer.
Yeah. So
awkward bugger, as we say.
Scottish.
And then they 1 week later they had an idea. Oh, I want to have a change in my mastering and something like that. And then it's very cool if you can open the file and do these small little changes and not have to turn all these knobs on the hardware gear. And
But do you actually master only digitally or also analog?
Depends. Sometimes I use my external compressors and equalizers, but sometimes it's not suitable. I have a really my favorite compressor is from Tegra Audio, the Veritube compressor, but it's not suitable on every track. So that's the thing. It's not every tool is suitable in every case, and you have to find your own tools. And sometimes they are digital, sometimes they are analog.
But then how does it work? So let's say I made a track.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you made tracks with Frank.
So yeah, just imagine. And then I would you know, approach you and ask you for a mastering, and then you would decide whether to do it that way or the other, or how does it work?
Yeah, I try to find out the best way to make this track sounding good on every sound system.
Yeah.
A small kitchen radio or a big system.
Yeah. And then you just you listen to it, and then you kind of know, yeah, what you have to use and what works best, or you try and error maybe as well. But
if there are some really big mistakes in the mix down, so I let the producer or the guy who does the mix down know, and then he can fix it in the mix, because it's better to fix some things in the mix than in the master.
Yeah.
And that
fixes it in the mix.
Yeah. but that's another thing. I think it's always all producers and all the guys are talking about mastering, but in my opinion, the most important thing is it's a good mix down.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Because when the mix down sounds like shit, so the master sounds like golden shit, but not like
yeah.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
But what does
I agree.
But what does make a mastering a good mastering, or how or why? I mean, I know that a lot of producers don't master the tracks themselves. I think that's right. Is it? So why, and what does, you know, what is the difference if you produce a track and then give it to somebody else to master it? It's just like a second kind of opinion, or look at it.
I can answer that quick, because I've actually just done it with Bruno yesterday. We were in the studio. Bruno was mastering one of my tracks, and I just find that, you know, especially if you've been working on a track for quite a long time, you kind of get your ears kind of get dead to it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you're hearing the same sound the whole time. Mm-hmm. And then if you give that track to somebody else that has fresh ears, mm-hmm. But also a specific way of mastering things, also, you know, because there are mastering engineers out there that have a specific sound, you know, and for me, Bruno is one of these guys that has a specific sound. He brings a certain life into the track that I probably wouldn't manage to do myself, because he looks at the track as from a different view as me. So he brings something, he adds something to the track. So it is really important, because you can have quite a flat track, and it sounds okay, and then you give it to somebody else to master, and they can just bring it to life, through the mastering. And it's all about positioning the sounds and all this kind of thing. And I think for me, Bruno is great at doing that, and it really has. The new track that I've just done, he's brought a lot of life into it through his approach to the mastering part of it.
Yeah, it's not the first time that I hear that about Bruno's masterings. That's actually the reason why I'm asking, because I know you, Allan, are a great producer, but you know, there has to be a reason for you to give it away, kind of, to make somebody else equalizing everything. So
sometimes I'll master myself. Sometimes I'll give it to somebody else to master, but recently the majority of my stuff has been done by Bruno, because I just think what Bruno does, it really does, it just brings a different dimension to the track. And also Bruno's one of these guys, when he does his mastering, he likes to keep the dynamic in the track, which because it's one thing I hate, tracks that are so compressed that they just don't live anymore. There's nothing in there. And Bruno keeps the dynamic in the track, you know, so that it still feels like the track is alive. And that's really important for me, for music. For me, it doesn't have to be loud. It needs to have that. It needs to have the movement in it so that it sounds alive.
But to be honest, in your case, it's a combination of mixing and mastering. It's not just the mastering.
Yeah.
And if I can mix the tracks by myself, my mastering chain is really small. So because I try to fix all the problems in the mixdown, that I have really just small corrections to do on the master group. That's what I say.
Yeah.
The important thing is the mixdown.
Yeah. Yeah, the mastering shouldn't be that difficult. The mastering should actually be an easy job.
Yeah, a control job to listen to it and say it's good or not. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And
Okay.
if it's bad, you have a hard day's work.
Yeah. Wow. Can you actually, Bruno, can you master? Yeah, I'm sure you can, but I mean, do you master tracks you really don't like?
Oh, yes, of course.
Well, you listen to them and you don't like them, but you know how it should be, what it should be like.
Because I know how it should sound. Because I know the this kind of sound. I would never master a rock band or something like that, because that's not my business. But in this techno, progressive house trance thing, so I really know how these things have to sound, these tracks have to sound, and whether if I like or not. So that's not that yeah, it's not.
Doesn't matter. So you can switch it off and just look at it, and you know how what it should sound like. But what? So you master progressive house, trance, techno, or what do you? And no pop or something like that.
Progressive house are the most, because I'm mastering most of stuff for Labs Records, and sometimes for Gaby as well.
I see. So there we have the connections all around.
Yeah.
Like that. Nice. Okay, very interesting.
And for Mickey, of course.
Yes, that's
So does that mean you will not master my new album with Deutsche Schlager?
All right, hey guys, we could talk forever, I feel.
I feel a part 2 coming up.
Yeah, of course. Hey, we had that too for the funny stories. So there will be a funny stories part 2, especially because Allan wasn't there.
Sorry.
It's actually a good thing, so we can have a second one.
I still need to do my Scottish accent for Frank.
Yes, exactly. No, but definitely, I think I find it very interesting to do some kind of tech talk things as well. So I think it's amazing if people can exchange thoughts and ideas. And I really like the aspect of you guys actually giving advice to each other and, you know, exchanging thoughts, because you don't keep your secret, you know, to yourself. I think that's very nice. There's no point in doing that, we all know that, but you know,
some people do though.
So, yeah,
some producers do keep the secrets.
Exactly. So that's what I really love about that. Thank you.
At the end of the day, we all want good music, so
yeah,
exactly.
And we all benefit from you know, working together. So nice.
Bruno, thanks for sharing the bass drum plugin, because it's brilliant.
Which one is it?
Welcome.
Which one is it?
Which one is it? We can't tell you. It's a secret.
So now everybody wants to.
Nicky Romero's kick.
It's from Vengeance Sounds, the Metrum.
Metrum, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
10 years. Every kick drum in my tracks is from that plugin.
Mine in the future will probably be from that as well.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much. It's been really interesting, especially for somebody like me who doesn't really know about a lot about it. But yeah, thank you for sharing everything, and keep us
there's
educated
one question.
a little bit.
I think there's one question in the chat.
Oh, is it? I think it
is a synthesizer better than the digital plug-in version of the same instrument?
Oh, sorry, I missed that one. Can you answer it?
That can't really be answered, can it?
Okay, it depends on your taste and on your workflow.
And also how good the clone is created. I mean, there are good, good emulations and bad emulations, and I think it's very much down to the programmers. And if someone, like the Arturia guys, for example, they did it really well. Or there's a from the ARP Odyssey, there's one by GeForce, and it sounds amazing. So I think it really depends on how well they are programmed. Yeah.
Have you tried the new Cherry Audio stuff?
Yes, amazing.
Absolutely, yeah, I love it.
Really amazing.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's better to buy a good and a cheap plugin than a cheap hardware. So I think because hardware it's more expensive than the plugins.
For me at the moment, it's Cherry Audio. I think Roland have done a great job with the Roland Cloud, and Arturia, they're doing a brilliant job with the software as well. So that's my go-to software.
The Roland McLoud.
The Roland McLoud, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. Any other questions so far at this point? No?
No, yeah. Name one legendary synth. I can start off with, for me, it was always the Roland D50, the digital synth from the 80s. That was never reproduced.
Oh,
till now.
Roland Cloud.
Yeah,
Roland Cloud now they have,
Yeah.
but it took a while because the programmer and the maker of the D50 is now doing the Spectrasonics plugins. But the D50 was so unique for that time.
Yeah, there you go. There's one.
Oh, there's one. Yeah. Yes. I love it. I just I purchased a couple of 2 years ago the new clone from Roland itself, and it sounds amazing. There was the Roland
DO5, isn't it?
The DO5.
Yeah.
It sounds exactly the same. That was the first time I heard a D50 again in this decade. That's nice.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you all have one specific favorite synth of all time.
Yeah, for me it's the Roland Jupiter 6.
Jupiter 6.
Yeah. I've still got it. It's upstairs getting a service at the moment. Yeah, that's really is. It was that and the Oberheim expander.
Oh, yeah.
But I decided to sell the expander, but the Jupiter 6, I'll take that to my grave with me.
And you, Rolf?
I'm still a big fan of my Yamaha AN1X. I bought them in mid-90s, and I'm really happy with it since then. And it's a virtual analog synthesizer like the Nordlead or the JP800. I think it's almost the same thing. Yeah. But it sounds really good, in my opinion.
Great. Rolf, you also have one favorite, all-time favorite.
I think he's sitting in front of it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is amazing. But the Moog P3, which is way back there in the background, this is it has tubes, and this is an instrument that really lives. I mean, it really sounds different. It's absolutely amazing, and yeah, and of course the expander. I don't really have one favorite that I like something that I have some go-to synthesizers, but not really the one that I use all the time, because it's they all mean something to me. And I love them.
One is good in bass sounds, the other one is good in strings or whatsoever.
For example, yes. And I think it's I think like everyone has its kind of a signature, and I think when you know your equipment, when you know your synths well, then you can get the most out of them, and then they all sound great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Well, we heard what Pavel's favorite ones is, and I think we all know what Frank would say.
Well, I do have a favorite new synth that's just come on the market, and that really is at the moment my go-to synth, and that's the Udo Super 6.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of that yet. It just came onto the market last year.
No.
No, it's actually a German synth, Udo Super 6. It's this one here, and it's absolutely amazing, and it's a digital analog, but the modulation possibilities with it is just unbelievable. It's kind of like it's like a modern Jupiter 6, because you also have that cross modulation between the oscillators.
Oh, that's cool.
But it just does so much more, but it's quite expensive on the market at the moment.
And we wait till Behringer makes
make a clone of it.
$100 or something like that.
Yeah, we just arrange a visit at Allan's studio, and then everyone can watch.
Yeah.
Well, anyone's more than welcome to come to the studio. Bruno's here next week.
Next Saturday.
So I need to make space before he comes.
Okay.
So yeah, because I've got synths on the floor at the moment as well. So.
Wow.
Okay. It was so funny. Before we had the talk, everyone of the group was telling me they're so excited about it. I never had it like that. So usually everyone is like, yeah, excited about it. But this time everybody was really like, oh, looking forward to it. So it really shows how passionate you all are about that. Really
it's
nice.
like
And of course it's the core of what we what our passion is, because you are actually producing it, you know. I mean, that's, of course it is your biggest passion, but it was really nice to see.
Yeah, these are our tools. That's my hammer, that's my saw, that's my spirit level, that's my chainsaw.
Nice.
Okay, so if there are no questions left, I would say
no.
We finish off. Is that okay?
2 hours, not bad.
Yeah, I knew it. No, it's beautiful. I've enjoyed it a lot. So thank you so much. I have to charge my laptop, so the camera will be flashing again, but okay. So take care, everybody. Hope to see you soon in the next Passion Talk, or in person, or, you know, everywhere else. Keep safe. Cool. Take care. And,
thanks for organizing again.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for, I mean, it's actually the idea originated from you. So, so yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Welcome.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.